Hi there. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Dr. Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, written by Mike Flanagan, based on the Stephen King book that I didn't read. I never read The Shining either. But I am a big fan of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I've seen it many times, and well, it's not for everyone, that movie. I can't highly recommend this movie enough. This one hurt. This one hurt not seeing it at the theater because I am a massive Mike Flanagan fan. And I think of all the things that people talk about in the several reviews that I've gone over and watched about this movie, is people talk about Mike Flanagan for a minute, but they don't really talk about Mike Flanagan in their reviews too much. I don't think he is given enough credit yet. I feel like other people that have gotten some success in the horror genre get talked about a lot more than Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan is the guy you should be wanting. Every time you hear his name attached to a project, you should be going, sold, here's my money. I'm not the biggest horror fan. I'm just not. For me, everything peaked when I saw John Carpenter's The Thing back when I was like probably 9, something like that, maybe 9 or 10. That movie has stayed with me my entire life. It is the high watermark. So everything else just kind of like, it doesn't, there's very few things that can stand up there with that, especially recently. I guess I'd say It Follows is up there. But when I saw The Haunting of Hill House, and it became my favorite thing of 2018 over everything that I'd seen, television or movies, that was my favorite thing. And it still blows my mind that that is my favorite thing of 2018. Because like I said, I'm not a horror fan. But that thing, that changed the game for me. I think it changes the game for horror and thrillers and, ghost stories. It really, really impressed me. And he was also the guy who, made an actual watchable Annabelle movie. He did Gerald's Game, another Stephen King adaptation. And in here, he does it again. Now, like I said, I didn't read this book, and I have a very strong suspicion that there's a lot of changes in this book adaptation. But I loved this movie. The one thing I'll say is that this shouldn't have been a movie. Like a movie. A released at the theaters movie. Because I guess it didn't do that well. And that's a fucking shame. Shame on all of us, honestly, that didn't go see this movie. Because, people are always like wanting to see something different. And even though this is based on a this is a sequel to a book and a movie that's beloved by many, this is a whole new thing. This, though, should have been a 4 or 5-part miniseries on like HBO or Netflix. I don't know how this really should not have been a movie. Because first off, it's already 2.5 hours long, right? It's already 2.5 hours long. So you get a lot, but you don't get enough. And by that I don't mean like, I just want to see more, I feel like the characters in this all deserved more time spent with them, like any Stephen King story. Like, look at season 2 of Castle Rock. Now, I'm not saying that's based on any actual book, based on characters, right? But season 1 over season 2 of Castle Rock, when they delved into the characters a little bit more, that was so much better. See, King is so his books are, I don't think I'm telling anybody anything new, but it's so detailed. And Mike Flanagan was putting a lot of detail into this. And if he'd just been given 4 or 5 hour-long episodes to, really flesh out these characters a bit more, this not only would have been a success, but this would have been like a heavy contender for like Emmy nominations, like big time. we wouldn't be talking about how this was a disappointment at the box office. We'd be praising it for what it is, and either Netflix or HBO or somebody like that would have had a huge fucking success on their hands. Instead of what we have now is this movie that's gonna, if this doesn't become a cult classic, or if it isn't already a cult classic, I mean, this is, as soon as a wider audience actually finds this movie, they're gonna love it, if they have any taste whatsoever. So, getting into this, because we're gonna be spoiling it, but I'm shocked at how good Ewan McGregor was in this. I'm not saying I don't like Ewan McGregor, and I'm not saying that Ewan McGregor is not a great actor, but I just didn't think he'd be very good at being Dan. But when I saw him in this, especially what really impressed me was the beginning of this movie. Ewan McGregor's a good-looking guy, and he doesn't get to play roles like this where he looks like shit. He really owned the down and out at the end of his luck, grimy, dirty, just pathetic. How far this character had fallen and the hard times that he'd been on since the events of the first movie or the first story. It was just really interesting seeing him embrace that kind of just desperate, lonely, just grubby character. Like, he's a good person, but he's lost. And maybe that's what I'm really thinking of, is that I've never really seen him play too many just lost characters. Like, you could say he was lost in Trainspotting, but that was just all the drugs. He's been in a few other movies that, there's one called, oh god, it escapes me right now. But he's done a wide range of performances, but I've never seen him do anything like this. And he was fantastic in this movie. Also, Rebecca Ferguson, holy shit. Not only is she one of the most beautiful actresses out there, and I know that shouldn't matter, but she is. Holy moly, can she rock that t-shirt right there. And what's great is, you don't see too many villains that are that beautiful, and so deadly. Every time she went, oh, hi there. Oh my god, I'll never be able to hear that ever again without just thinking of this character. She's one bad motherfucker. These psychic vampires, these semi-immortal ghouls that feast on the powers of other people so that they can live forever. Wow. She really, really was great. But that's the thing, is that she was good, but I wanted more of her background. I wanted more of the group that she was in. There's some really interesting characters in there. Zach McLarnon, who's been in a lot of stuff. I remember him in Fargo. He was fantastic in Fargo. He was really good, but I wanted more. The whole group of people, some of them just really got nothing. They got nothing to do, and I bet you they're way more interesting on the page. And like I said, they could have done so much more in a miniseries. And Kylie Curran, or Curran, however you want to say it. Everybody's names, man. Jesus Christ. She is unbelievable. Kid actors are very hit and miss. And this girl knocked it out of the park. Mike Flanagan has a very good track record so far with child actors. Let's look at Haunting of Hill House. Every one of those kids was phenomenal. One of them is in here. Violet she was the most adorable little girl. Violet McGraw, who was in Haunting of Hill House. She stole my heart on that show, and she was so sad in this. It was of course, the perfect way to start this movie is with that little girl getting preyed upon by these people. Also, all the casting, the recasting of people from the original movie. We had, let's see, Roger Dale Floyd as young Danny, Alex Esso as his mom, and then the two big standouts. One is Carl Lumbly as Dick Halloran taking over for Scatman Carruthers, who died a long time ago. But holy crap, did he own that? That was just like listening to Scatman Carruthers. Carl Lumbly, I haven't seen him much lately, but he was a Martian Manhunter on Justice League. He was Sid's uh, partner on Alias. He was, I think he was Mantis on that Fox show. He's been in a lot of stuff. He was on an X-Files called The Teleco in season 4. He's an amazing actor, and he just like he to me he was just like he became Scatman Carruthers without getting too much like this, but he was fan freaking tastic. And then we can't, because we're talking spoilers here, so Henry Thomas, another guy who is great in Haunting of Hill House, Henry Thomas from E.T. and Suicide Kings and everything else, um, as Jack Torrance. I'm not gonna say it was inspired or anything, but he did a really good job. That is such a hard. How do you jump into Jack Nicholson's shoes? And he's not in it very long, but he's in it just long enough and when they recreate some of the scenes that he was in, it was really, really well done. And that's another thing, this whole thing, this production was fantastic. The score that they used throughout this, even when it was just, you could hear that heartbeat while they're just in many of the scenes, just, you're never, like, it's always very unsettling no matter what. So whenever they're using a lot of the kind of a remastered or remixed version of the Shining music, but then you have that boom, 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 like you can feel it pulsing. I was using my great noise canceling headphones at real hot, like a pretty decent volume, just so I could get like the full surround sound of it. And oh my God, was I immersed in this movie. I don't usually jump a lot at movies, but there were a few moments that I just about leaped out of my skin a few times. But this isn't like a scary, scary movie. This is a creepy movie. This is an unsettling movie. This is things that happen in this movie, like what's happening behind me. It's the emotion and the rawness of it. Without some of you're not seeing like a lot of violence. You know it's happening, and Mike Flanagan's so good at that kind of thing. He's really, really good at kind of doing a Hitchcockian, not giving you all the not showing you stuff, letting you kind of infer what's happening and feel the emotion of it and weight of a scene. He's really good at doing that. Yeah, like I was trying to say, yeah, the details in this. All the little details in this that you would see in a Stephen King movie. I think a lot of that stuff usually gets missed by a lot of other people that adapt his work. And like I said, if they had just given this like a mini series, we could have seen more detail. When he talks about the boxes that he put everybody in from the hotel, and when he's out of the hotel as a little boy, in that scene where he goes to the bathroom, goes to the washroom, and there's that freaky looking lady in the shower getting ready to turn around. He walks in there and just closes the door with that confidence. That just really, oh my gosh, there's so many great scenes in here. One of the questions I have is like, how do they bottle this essence? Like, it just, that was a little bit of that whole thing with the steam, the psychic mist that comes out of people was a little like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's like, fine. If there's going to be one thing that I'm going to have the suspension of my disbelief, right? Because, this is all fake anyway, whatever. But, like, that part where they got these canisters that look like, they open up and I'm just like, what? But it's fine. It's fine. Bruce Greenwood was in this. He didn't get much to do, but when there's that scene in his office when he's asking him how he knew about where the watch was, I was like, that office looked like the office set from The Shining when Jack was being interviewed for the job to take the Overlook Hotel. I feel like I don't know if Flanagan based that office on that scene from that movie, but it really sure seemed like it was. Jacob Tremblay's death that they just had here a minute ago. Like, Jacob Tremblay's just in this to die. And that kid, I think, I mean, it's brilliant casting because you get somebody that you know, right? You get this kid who won an Oscar. Didn't he win an Oscar? He was in an Oscar-nominated Room, like Room, not The Room, Room. And he's been in a lot of stuff. And so, you know, he's a cute little kid. You know him. And so when that scene was so effective, I was really freaking creeped out by that whole thing. It was really sad because there's child death in this. And that doesn't usually... they handled it in such a great way without being too gratuitous. You just really get the emotion and how evil these people are. And again, when we talk about how evil they are, you know, one of the characters brings up, you know, you don't know what you'll do for more time. You'd be surprised. You know, like, I wasn't like this all the time, but like trying to be immortal, we started taking from people. But it's like, really, it shows that you were already less of a human being to not just accept your own fate. Why did you have to take it from other people? And these vampires, they've gone on for so long that they don't even think of people as people. They look at themselves as being above, that they've figured something out. And I feel like the way that their deaths were handled was a little too quick. I feel like there has to be a better story in the book as to how these people get taken down, because just being Rose at the hotel seemed a little like vacant. I think that would have benefited from having a lot of the people that were with her getting taken out one by one, like in a real horror movie, by the Overlook Hotel would have been way fucking great, like way better. Because in the end, she just kind of gets taken out. But the file cabinet scene, that was fantastic. That was so well done. All these like cool shots. And I feel like this movie really is kind of the culmination of a lot of things that Mike has probably learned. What he can do, what he can get away with, all the experimentation. Because he had to do a lot of like really interesting set changes where you go from a regular room to a haunted room, like transition, like from one hallway to the next, where it was really, really cool how they did it. And I think that he used a lot of that here. But without going into, you know, too much more detail on this, Cliff Curtis was really great as his friend. But as soon as I was like, oh man, you know, I really like Cliff Curtis in this. It's a shame that this character is probably going to die, and you know. But going back to Kylie Curran here, this girl really has a career ahead of her. She was so capable, and I know that a lot of this has to do with the writing. Like I said, Flanagan's really good with writing for kids. But she was finally a kid who wasn't like some whiny little bitch, some little damsel in distress. She was capable and willing, and not like one of those, like, you know, like Miles Morales in Spider-Verse. No disrespect to that movie, but like Miles's character of like, I don't know what to do. What do I do it? How do I learn? Oh, I can't do anything. This girl like takes to it like a duck to water, and it's so refreshing to see a confident child character without being arrogant. That was really fantastic. I'm sure that I'm missing stuff. All the stuff when they went back to the Overlook Hotel was really well done. I dug that quite a bit. But again, like all the things that I'm thinking about, I'm like, man, I really wish I could have seen more of like the town, like teeny town, or just how they go about their process of finding more people like to kill. Maybe see some of their backstory, all that stuff. And see, that's not really a diss. It's just like I feel like there's way more to this that they could have given us if they just done it a little differently. And unfortunately, you know, like I said, this is going to become a cult movie. I'm definitely buying. I'm going to make some room somewhere on my wall somewhere for a Dr. Sleep poster, because I'm buying this. I'm buying this one. I don't buy a lot of movies. I don't usually feel the need to because they're all up here. But this one's definitely going in the collection. And so That's all I have to say. I'm going to probably kick myself because I'll forget. I'll think about a few extra things. But again, remember, Mike Flanagan, man. Mike Flanagan is the a director to really keep watching out for. I still don't know why. I mean, this probably was supposed to be his big, coming out party, like big break, and then it didn't do well. But I hope that doesn't scare anybody off from studios from like hiring him for future projects. And like I said, maybe they if they learn their lesson and give him some of these things to do for like series or whatever for streaming services, these kind of projects will succeed. Not everything has to be out at the movies. So anyway, that's my review on Doctor Sleep. It was friggin' amazing. I didn't care that it was 2.5 hours long. I wanted more. This definitely would have been in my top 5 movies of last year if I had seen it last year. But right now, as of right now, this is one of the best movies I've seen in 2020. And since technically it was playing in theaters still, right, in 2020, I guess you could still say it was like one of the best movies of 2020. It may not have been released initially in 2020, but I digress. Anyway. If you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Otherwise, this is Rob saying have a great night, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.